welcome to Finding the Inner Strength podcast with myself, Cheryl, the Crack Yogi. It's episode 14, everyone. Episode 14. And I wanted to just go down a little journey of um, where I'm at now mentally to where I was even just a few years ago. And last week I had shared the routine that myself and even my husband had gotten into the last couple of months, more diving deep into what my routine was. But it was where we recognized we were just both physically and mentally drained by December, probably even before that. And we made it a point to settle for a bit down here in the United States. And just focus on our physical well-being, which of course links into our mental well-being. And I also did talk about a bit last week where I was feeling more motivated and more energy to invest into things and just on a happier scale. And I don't think I can ever say I was never 100% happy in my lifetime. There's been a lot of struggles, more within, I would say, later 30s, mid 40s, and the last few years I've been taking a journey on figuring out why I kind of took a little bit of a dive onto my mental health. And so it's neat now. Just I notice a huge difference on how I can process my emotions and how I'm mentally feeling in a day to where I could um, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So, yeah, like I said, I'm feeling very centered, more content, um, more in tune. Um, my husband and I can have conversations on how I'm feeling. Um, and same the other way around. If for him, like if there's a day where he's feeling a little bit heavier in the mind, and we can have a discussion about it. Like it's not like we feel we have to hide how we're feeling from each other. And it says a lot about our relationship because years ago we would just try to tiptoe around each other because we didn't want to rock the boat and not sure how the other person was doing um, themselves. And where I can actually say he's my best friend and he has said that I'm his best friend. So um, it really, like, our relationship has grown over the last few years because we've been learning how to communicate even better with how we are doing. It's not perfect, but we're there, or at a point, I'd say 100% better than we were like 5 or more years ago. And for myself, like I was saying last week, with taking care of myself physically for like really focused in on it for January, February, and now into March, I am even more in tune than I was the last like 6 months before that on when all of a sudden I feel a shift of heaviness in my mind, or I'm exhausted, or I'm feeling sad. Um, So one of the things I'll do, it's kind of funny. I've been doing this for like the last year or more. I will look if I like, so today I felt kind of heavy this morning, but nothing, I couldn't pinpoint it. But there's a full moon coming, possibly because yes, the energy just, it does go around that. I'm not trained in astrology, but just over the years, noticing when there's a full moon or a new moon, the shift in my energy and my mental health. But also, um, economically, we're not doing the greatest right now just because we have chosen to be down in the States for the winter. And as a lot of us know, the currency conversion really bites even more than ever. So where Ken is the only one bringing in a fluid income, a consistent income right now, we feel that on in the pocketbook. So that weighs a lot on me because I just want to make sure that we're okay. And like, you got to watch what you're spending, and like nickel and diming it. And again, we chose to come down here, but we weren't expecting the full throttle of, or the full feel of how much we lose economically coming here. Um, so that I noticed, okay, I've been thinking about that the last few days. That's um, a big thing where my mind feels heavy, and the stress, the anxiety. Um, but before, I would just bottle that up, and or not even notice how it would shift my demeanor, shift my energy towards other people, um, even how I physically felt. Because when I'm feeling mentally drained from stresses and anxiety, um, I feel more physically exhausted. And it's kind of neat how I can put the pieces of the puzzle together on that. I could even say almost a year ago, it would actually been almost a year ago, last spring. And it's not even spring yet, but so I would say probably more towards the end of March into April. I had a conversation with Ken, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know if this is hormonal, if there's something else that I'm dealing with. Like, so, like, say I am 46, I'm almost 47. So, but last year, 45 going to 46, I'm like, is this perimenopause? Could be. Who knows? And I went to my doctor and I said I'd like to get more testing if possible. Um, and the reason it's hard for them to decipher this on me is the fact that I haven't had a womanly flow for like since 2009. So when they try to figure out if you're going through menopause or starting to, one of the things is the change in your cycle. So majority of us know that. And I haven't had a cycle since 2009 because of an operation I had back then. So I was getting really frustrated because also thinking, am I going crazy? Is there, like just all of a sudden there was this compounding of over the years, like I had talked about before when I lived in Yellowknife, just this feeling of isolation. And I've never been diagnosed with depression. I'm not saying I had depression or have it, but I was not happy in that environment. And I didn't realize how much it pulled me away from who I actually am. Like, I just completely came into this bubble of isolation to block everything out. And when I started doing my training back in Yellowknife with V and Tim, I've talked about them quickly before. They were my yoga instructors of certifications that I was doing. And there was a point where we were talking about Ayurveda and different types of nutrition, and they were suggesting something of what they do, like a practice that they do. And I'm not going to get into that now. Um, but they also knew I wasn't ready to embrace it. Not, I don't want to say embrace it, but they could tell by how scattered I was mentally and physically, but I think more mentally, that I was like, they just were educating me on it. And that's when I started diving a little bit deeper into where I was mentally, where I was able to learn to take a breath, take a step back, and observe what was going on around me. So, kind of more what people I was surrounded by, friends, family, even things, even if they didn't surround me physically, but just being a part of my life, how these relationships affected me. Also, within the scope of how, at that point, not feeling physically well, and because there were things going on physically to myself, which linked to also nutrition and diet, that also affects mind. And I was starting to put these pieces to the puzzle together back then. And over the last few years, because I have learned to take a step back and look around me, especially when I'm feeling heavy mentally, exhausted physically, I have the capability and the knowledge and tools now to examine, why am I feeling like that at the moment? To last year, when I asked to my doctor to explore this a little bit more, because I felt like I would have all these good moments and days, but then I would just hit rock bottom. My rock bottom, not the same as other people's rock bottom. I was still able to go do things. Like I didn't keep myself locked in. I talked about this last week. I've always been a person that I eventually make myself go do things. Like I'm like, stop wallowing in your own self-pity, even though sometimes I don't even know what's causing it at that back point. Um, but I would always pick myself up and move forward. I've always been able to do that. And I do know when I lived in Yellowknife, there were points where I felt like I couldn't. The only reason I was doing things is because I did keep myself busy with work, from working at the school, teaching piano, teaching yoga, and even like accompanying a youth choir. I liked keeping myself busy, but I think I kept myself busy. Actually, I know I kept myself busy, so I didn't have time to think and self reflect on what was causing my unhappiness at the time. So last year, like I said to Ken, like, I don't know what's going on. Like, I don't know if this is a hormonal thing, it's like a menopausal thing. I don't know if this is depression, which is where I hit rock bottom. My rock bottom is what I mean. Like, it's not everyone's way of dealing with mental health is different. Um, but I was like, I recognize like this is just not healthy. And that's when I had decided to finally go to a therapist. And um, because I always said that my problems weren't as big as others, right? So I always put everyone else's thoughts and feelings first, and I just put myself to the wayside. And when I started going to my therapist, it was it was actually, it's nice to have validation. It's like when you go to the doctor and you think you're feeling a certain way, and when you get a result back from testing and there actually is an answer to how you're feeling, then you're like, thank God I wasn't like a hypochondriac, right? Like, I know I'm not even near to being a hypochondriac, but I wasn't making these symptoms up. So, noticing over the years of being a military spouse, a mom, um, and then even just things from my childhood just have compiled to where my mind was like would have moments of just wanting to shut down, like just not deal with things, kind of hide away. And one of the things that was actually quite eye opening for me, and it was kind of funny, it was during one of my sessions with my therapist, and it was when we were visiting actually our son last um, end of September, October, beginning of October, and I was having a video teleconference with my therapist, and I'm trying to remember how it came up, but I had said to her, whenever my husband, like when Ken was gone, and I don't even mean a tour, he's done 4 military tours and consistently training over the years. And I was one of those spouses that um, I kept myself busy when he was gone because I didn't want to think of the what could happen. I didn't sit by the phone waiting for him to call me. I just kept a routine, kept myself busy. And then, of course, when we had kids, kept me and the kids busy and just marched through it, right? Because if you sit at home waiting for and waiting, that can get harder and harder and heavier on the mind. So, what started happening over the years, and I thought I was like, I know I'm not a controlling individual. I didn't, I don't think I am. But I was telling my therapist, like when Ken goes out, like even if it's just for a drive or if he's going hunting with buddies or going to the gym, I have this overwhelming feeling that if he's even a little bit late, something's happened to him. I think, oh, is he in a car accident? Did he drop, did he have a heart attack? He's still young. He's 48. Did he decide not to come home? Like just all these thoughts and worries. And when I was talking to my therapist, she's like, okay, you've never discussed this before. And I forget what she had called it. Um, but I had manifested when he leaves, even though that's not a military tour anymore, I have that underlining fear of him not coming home. And it was heavy. Like I was like, it gave me an answer to why I felt the way I did every time Ken goes out. Um, because I like he'd go and like he knew I was worried. So then that added stress on him that he couldn't make um plans without talking to me, or he'd be worried that I'd be worrying. Just like this continuous cycle. And I was, I just started crying. It was a relief because I was like, I know I, I want him to go out. I want him to do things, but I couldn't shut off my mind of worry for him. So when my session was over, I told Ken was home, and he just kind of looked at me. He's like, really? Like, I'm like, yeah, like it was an opener, an eye opener to how I process things when he leaves to go even to the grocery store. He could be gone for 15 minutes and I would be worried that something was going to happen to him. And it was kind of ironic. So that day and I knew after my session I was exhausted because it was like a lot of talking, a lot of emotions. And I knew I needed to get some time to myself for about an hour, just settling, maybe do some meditation, some movement. So Ken, God love him, he's so good to me. He's he's like, you know what? I'll go to the grocery store, and um, when I come back, we can go for a walk with the dogs. Because at that time, with being at our son's place, we had our dog and also their dog, and they just love going for walks and exploring. I said, yeah, all I need is an hour. That's all I need. So he left, and I did my yoga session, and it was hard because mentally I was just so drained, but I was so happy I got it done. And so an hour finish, he's not home. Didn't hear from him on cell phone. And all of a sudden my mind just starts wandering. Okay, did he drive there? No, he walked there. Is he okay? Is he like just brain like trying to shut off my brain? It's just this roller coaster of fear that something's happened to him. And then also recognizing at the same time, oh, okay, this makes sense to what my therapist was saying. And I'm like, no, he's okay. And I stopped myself from texting him or calling him because I wanted him to enjoy his time out. I knew he was okay, but like logically I know he's okay. But unlogical, just couldn't stop the negative thoughts of him being hurt or not coming home. And at the same time, so he comes home an hour or two after that. So this is like 2 to 3, like an hour after I just worked on myself to 2 hours. And he comes in, I'm like, hey. And I was like, I was trying to be happy, whatever. But he recognized right away how I was feeling, because I always try to hide it from him because I don't want him to worry that I'm worrying. And I was like, what, where were you? He's like, well, I was just waiting for you to call me. He's like, I was just taking my time. I was waiting for you to call me. So I just kind of like wandered from stores and whatever. So he was letting me have my space, waiting for me to call him. But I was working on myself, not calling him, just allow him to have that time. It was, anyways. So then we go out for a walk with the dogs. And I realized when him and I were talking about, like, I was just kind of reflecting with him the feeling of when he leaves. And like I said, it could even only be for 10 to 15 minutes. And I said to him, it was really eye opening for me, because even though I understand now, or starting to understand why I process this the way I do when he goes somewhere, and I have like, now I know what I need to work on. He's the only person I feel like this with. I don't feel like this or have these thoughts with my children, my adult children now. I don't have it with my parents or friends or anything. It's just him. And it made sense because of the years of him leaving during his service, how I dealt with it, because I had no control of what was going to happen to him. And even now that he's not even in the military anymore, I was taking that learned behavior mentally, and those worries were coming out. I felt like I had no control. It's funny, like he could be over in Afghanistan years ago or Kosovo. I knew I had no, like, there was no answer. Like, I didn't know when I'm going to hear from him, so I just pushed through it. But being somewhere where he's not that far, it weighed heavy on me. And it and this was, like I said, just the past October, end of September, October, that this came out in one of my sessions. And it was like that light, like the angels were singing, of making sense of what was going on in my head. And I still struggle with it, but I have information on now. So it's funny, like when Ken goes and, grocery shopping or something without me, or goes to the gym, I process it in an understanding and knowing if it starts to go wayside and I start to worry. Like, no, he's okay. Then I do a meditation, or I just reflect on it. And he's really good too. He'll just send me a quick little message. Because what was it, a week ago? Literally not even 100 meters away. Like, I did my yoga practice in our rig. He goes to the gym here, and then he goes for a steam, because I have a steam room here. And he messages me and he's like, going in for a steam. Well, almost an hour goes by and I can't go in the steam room because there's a male and a female steam room, so separate. So it's not like I can go up there. And I didn't want to go up. This is the thing. It's like, no, he's okay. I don't hear ambulances. I know, like, but I hadn't felt like that in a long time. Like, the worry I had for him was huge. And I had texted him like, are you still in the steam room? Like, should I be worried? And he went and got a shower and did other things. But because the last contact I had was steam room, and then I noticed so much time passed, I'm like, oh, did he pass out? Did his blood pressure drop? Did this happen? Did this happen? And I had to take a step back and realize what was happening, and understanding why it was happening. Like, and my therapist said, this isn't going to go away right away. This is just something that we need to work on. And of course, then Ken and I got on the road, and that was my last therapy session until I get back to Alberta. So I guess what I'm saying with that is I've come a long way of understanding um, things that can cause me to dive a little bit deep into my mental health. And the reason I named this episode Mind Over Matter. Um, I should have said matter over mind, because I'm able to take context now and look even when I'm feeling happy, I'll take a moment and I'll be like, reflect on where I'm at. So, physical space, who I'm around, um, also physically how I'm feeling. I'll look at the moon cycle, the moon phases, and these things help me take that introspection, that inner knowing, observation, and awareness to how I'm feeling mindfully, mentally at those moments. And having this knowledge and time to reflect and not just react. Because years ago, it would always be a reaction without stopping and thinking about it. And I see it in other people and how everyone just reacts so quickly to everything. And I'm not perfect. Like, I do still have those moments where I can be impulsive because of what I'm surrounded by. And then I'll realize an hour or two later, oh, this affected me so much. This is where I am mentally now. But I watch other people and their reactions, and I observe, I listen, and it's almost like I'm watching a movie, even though I'm in the situation, and just observing how people suck everything in around them and how they react to it. And I guess you could also put it into perspective on how everything's happening now, on our planet. How is it affecting you, especially mentally? Because I know a few weeks ago I had to take a step away from listening to things in social media, on the news, because it was so heavy. I was starting to get a consistent feeling of anxiety. And then when I was feeling that anxiety, I'm like, okay, what's shifted? What's happening? What am I doing, or what am I around that is bringing this heaviness to me? What I want you to take away from this is, especially if you have a hard time with mental health, even if it doesn't seem like a big deal, but you have heavy moments, there are ways that you can learn to observe it. It's being stoicism. And it actually works. It really does work. And stoicism isn't like putting yourself on a pedestal over people. It's about being able to observe, watch, and notice how these things are affecting you externally and internally. How are you able to take this information that you're receiving, and apply it in a positive way on your health, on your wellness? And I'm on that journey, and it's not a quick one. Like I said, like back in October, learning how when Ken leaves, leaving for a short period of time, and why I react the way I do mentally. It's more information on a healthier path for me. And I want you to know that no matter what you're dealing with mentally, there is ways of helping yourself and learning how to help yourself. The moment you sit back and let time pass, let life pass you because of this heaviness, you're losing out on that precious gift of life and experience, exploration, adventure. And everybody's definition of exploration, adventure, contentment, happiness is different. We are meant as human beings to have those stresses and anxieties, but they are not who we are. And I have learned over the last, so it's 2025, I'd say about 2020, 2019, 2020 is when I started diving a little bit deeper into myself to learn. Actually, well, I guess more 2020, 2021. Of course, those are COVID years. And it was because I had the time to learn more and notice how things were affecting me. And I was doing more certifications and training within my career, that I had the blessing and gift to have amazing teachers to teach me how to live a more balanced, content life and learn how to read myself and how things affect me being stoic. So I can say now, today, even from October to today, I've come a long way. And I notice if I'm in an environment that is not conducive to what I want to be around or be in, I remove myself from it. I don't run away. I notice, I feel, and then process, and then I choose if it's the right fit for me or not. So, yeah, like I just wanted to discuss that. And I feel really good uh, the last little while. Like I did say a week or two ago, or probably 2 weeks ago, with that heaviness, anxiety, but it's because of knowing with that social media, watching the news, and getting pulled into more negativity. I'm not ignoring what's happening. I just choose how much I bring in and how it affects me. I have the knowledge of what's going on, but I also know what my limit is to observing it and hearing it. And it's the same thing with my physical fitness and wellness. How my body feels also affects my mind. But now I have more information on working on both together. And this union has come together. It's not perfect, but it's I can feel the shift of I don't want to say control, because I find control could be more of a negative. It's more of a knowing and riding through this wave of life and knowledge and embracing it. So go on that little exploration yourself, because it totally is worth it. You are worth it. You are worth the work. And it's all it's not doesn't come easy, but also that's another level of having strength, is getting through those difficult times and persevering, because stress and anxiety do create more strength for us as humans. It's how if you deal with it in a heavy negative way and try to hide from it or react in a negative way, that's when things get even harder to deal with everyday life, and actually not being able to observe on how it really affects you. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I just love sharing how my journey, finding the inner strength, finding my inner strength, um, and continuing to go on this journey, how it may help you reflect on how you are doing each and every day. Thank you so much for joining me. Have a fantastic week. Oh, forgot. Fantastic day, fantastic week, fantastic month. Be kind to yourself and others. And until next time, enjoy each day to its fullest. Bye.